You can see that even the flagship Samsung devices doesn't have serialized parts, which means that if you replace the display, it will not ruin other features such as the face recognition or other display features such as auto brightness, which is a very bad feature on modern Apple devices. So this one, just straight up swap the device and try to turn it on, and it works just like a brand new Samsung Galaxy S21 Plus would. Hello guys, this is Glenn from Sydney CBD Repair Centre, and today we have a Galaxy S21 Plus from Samsung with a crushed display. And David is here with us, the Samsung Galaxy expert, to fix it. So right here we can see that Hello guys, this is Glenn from Sydney CBD Repair Centre, and today we have an Apple device with a broken display. This is your Apple iPhone 11 Pro. You can see that it's already lifted up. So let's get going. Not really sure what happened to this iPhone 11 Pro, but there's some inscriptions at the back of the device of the screen itself where it's labeled as iPhone 11 Pro. So someone has already tried to fix this device, and having the screen is already lifted up from the main chassis is really concerning. So it's a good thing because it's still I think the Face ID is still stored on this screen. So we'll get on that later on, what we mean by that. So you have to put the screen on a 90-degree angle to the right of the device so that you will not yank on the connectors for the front camera and the display itself. So without removing the screws, the screen is already lifted up. So we're gonna remove the screws so we can lift the frame that holds the screen. So this is the proper way of removing the display, not with the screen itself from the frame that holds it into the chassis. So there's a plastic frame you can see here. David is slowly going through it on the side, and there you go. It's supposed to be going out as a single unit, not as two separate pieces. We're going to remove the latch that holds the connectors for the display. There's 3 of them. Just pop it off. This is going to be put into our copy paste machine, as I call it. We copy the data for the Face ID from the display itself. So we're reading it and saving it in this machine. Put that to the side and get our replacement iPhone Pro display. Just copy and then paste it here. So we do this because Apple is notorious on serializing parts for their iPhone devices. So once you remove the stock parts from your iPhone and replace it with a third-party unserialized part, it will not activate the Face ID and ruin the auto brightness and some features in the smartphone. So what we do here is we copy the information or the serial information over to the replacement display so that the main board will think that it's still the stock screen that we're installing back to the device. So if you're not really aware that this is being imposed on modern iPhones, then maybe go to a repair technician that knows how to perform this copy-paste maneuver so that you will retain all the features on your iPhone 11 Pro or 11 Pro Max. The repair itself is very easy. You just pop it in and then it works right away. And now it's booted up. So we're gonna try to open this device, but the client also wants us to ensure that the SIM card that they're using is working with this specific iPhone 11 Pro. So let's go test it. So we didn't show you the testing for the call because the phone number is reflected on the display. We're trying to protect the data, the private information or data from our clients. So right here we are now in the iPhone 11 Pro interface. Cameras are all working. There seems to be no issues with error messages or anything that's broken or missing. So we've done a good job in copying over the information from the old display. So So we're just gonna test it more and then close up the device. So David is gonna try to remove this first and see the connector for the battery to see if there are any other issues, but there's none. So we're gonna try to reassemble the whole thing for the final time, close up the device, put the screws back in their proper place. These screws tend to have different sizes, so just make sure if you're DIYing this that you remember the order of the screws and the positions that they are in, or else your iPhone will not boot up. So if you don't want the hassle of finding the right part or finding the right technique to repair your iPhone 11 Pro or other iPhone devices, message David. He will do the fix for you for a very reasonable price, unlike the Apple people charges you. And you also get some freebies like this tempered glass, which is very, very nice. So I hope you enjoyed this, guys. This is a very easy repair for David. And if you have any issues, don't hesitate to message our Facebook page, visit our shop, follow our website, Sydney CBD Repair. And now it's fully fixed. So thanks for joining, guys. We hope to see you next time. Like and subscribe. Till next time, cheers!
If you want your smartphone fixed for a very reasonable price, you may contact Sydney CBD Repair Centre. We also provide mail-in repair services for customers outside of Australia or Sydney. Just message us so we can arrange the shipping of your device.
Hello guys, this is Glenn from Sydney CBD Repair Centre, and today we have an Apple device with a broken display. This is your Apple is reflected on